The pronouncement of William Ruto as president-elect, the process of ascending to power begins with a committee put in place to ensure there is a smooth transition. Look Up TV takes a look at some of the parts of the process, followed by the actual swearing-in of the president.
Went to the ballot on Tuesday to elect their president and other leaders. 6 days later came the hour, and so did the man. The IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, declared William Ruto president-elect.
I, Wafula Chebukati, chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei been duly elected as the president.
The process of transition to power is spelled out in the Constitution, with the Transition Committee mandated to ensure that everything goes according to plan.
The committee is established pursuant to the Assumption of the Office of the President Act, that is Act number 21 of year 2012, and in furtherance of Article 141 of our Constitution. The committee's core mandate is to facilitate a smooth transition from the current administration to the incoming administration.
According to the Assumption of Office of President Act, an incumbent government is expected to establish a committee known as the Assumption of the Office of President Committee to steer the process at least 30 days before a general elections. But what exactly does the transition process entail, and why is it important? Lawyer Dedan Chege explains.
What is supposed to happen. One, there is a committee that is set up by that act. The committee is chaired by the head of public service. Among the membership of that office, we have the Attorney General. You remember 2007, the post-election violence, and what triggered that. We know President Kibaki was sworn in at night, but at 6 p.m. in the evening on a Saturday. So to avoid such scenarios, that's why we had to come up with procedures and laid out, very well laid out in law, so that we know what is supposed to happen. And you see, actually the Constitution says the president must be sworn in during the day, publicly, you see, so to avoid him being sworn in some hotel or other state house. Yes, so that is what triggered.
During the inauguration day, a presidential motorcade will be on standby at the residences of both the president-elect and his deputy, and they will be heavily guarded by a contingent of General Service Unit officers who will guide them to the swearing-in ceremony.
The law wanted to make sure that we do not have a situation where we don't have a president in place. So the transition process ensures that we have a president. The president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, is still in office up until we have a sworn-in president. Even at the time we have a president-elect, he still remains as a president-elect.
After the declaration, here is what ensues up until the president-elect is sworn in as head of state. In an event of a petition challenging the results, it must be filed within 7 days from the declaration of the results. The Supreme Court should hear and determine the petition within 14 days after it is filed, and its decision shall be final. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of the petitioners, the results are annulled and a fresh election is ordered to be held within 60 days. In the event that no petition is filed at the Apex Court, the president-elect shall be sworn in publicly before the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice if the CJ is absent on the first Tuesday, 2 weeks after the date of the declaration of the results of the presidential election by IEBC. The president-elect then takes an oath of office for the execution of the functions of office as prescribed in Article 141(3) of the Constitution of Kenya. Upon taking the oath, the president shall sign a certificate of inauguration, and the outgoing president shall hand over to the president the instruments of power and authority, a sword, and the Constitution. After this, the outgoing head of state will welcome the next president of Kenya to the stage to make his address. The national anthem will be played as the presidential standard is changed to conform to the new administration. The outgoing president will then leave for State House to officially hand over the House on the Hill to his successor. In the meantime, The newly sworn-in president will then be driven around the stadium in an open Land Rover to greet Kenyans in attendance, after which he will be driven to State House for a final sit-down with the outgoing president. Brian Amuai, Look Up TV, Nairobi.